Wanna get weird? The Witching Hours is your home for all things paranormal, supernatural, and unexplained. Join us at thewitchinghourspodcast.com for all the weirdness. There you can check out previous shows, upcoming shows, purchase merch, and more. Now, get ready for The Witching Hours.
From the land of conjurers, flying through the internet to your device like a UAP, hauntingly unexplained and downright weird, this is the Witching Hours, and we are ready to take off in the flash of an eye. Good evening to one and all, wherever and whenever you're listening to this program. I am John of the Frost, and joining me, as always, is the medium, Ginny Lee. How are you doing, Ginny?
I'm doing pretty well today. Pretty well.
Doing well. Yeah, it's a kind of one of those exciting weeks for us with the end of the school years for the children's and all of that. So
first day of summer vacation.
There we go. So lots of things going on. This is our second one of the week. Hopefully we have a one that we did Tuesday where we kind of hung out and talked about some interesting things. So if you weren't able to catch that, you can go check that out on YouTube. I don't know, we got a lot of fun stuff coming up over the next week or so. So
yeah,
a lot of cool stuff coming up. Welcome in, everyone. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us tonight. It's wonderful to see all of you in chat. Welcome in. And we're ready for a good show tonight. We're going to keep it going. We've had some great guests recently.
Great guests.
Yeah, great guests. Great guests recently, and we're going to keep that going. We have, I'm really excited about tonight's show, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it as well. But first, do we want to get to some news?
Absolutely.
All right. So for the news today, few different articles we have. An ancient Egyptian skull shows oldest attempt at cancer surgery. This came up in my feed
Hmm.
earlier in the week. A pair of ancient
Interesting.
Egyptian skulls, both thousands of years old, belong to some of history's earliest known cancer patients. According to a study published Wednesday, the skulls had cut marks around cancerous growths, providing evidence that ancient Egyptians had explored ways to treat cancer through operations,
Wow.
said the study published in Frontiers in Medicine Journal. The ancient Egyptians were known for their medical know how. Texts describe how they would treat a range of illness and injuries, in some cases by building prosthetic limbs and inserting false teeth. But this glimpse into cancer treatment is a milestone in the history of medicine, the study said. We see that although ancient Egyptians were able to deal with complex cranial fractures, cancer was still a medical knowledge frontier. One of the study's authors, Tatiana Tondini, said in a statement. The study's lead author, Professor Edgar Camaros, added that the finding was unique evidence of how ancient Egyptian medicine would have tried to deal with or explore cancer more than 4,000 years ago.
Kind of makes sense, though, that the Egyptians were doing more medical surgery type of things because they already knew so much about the body from mummification.
Yeah.
They were cutting
Yeah.
them up and looking at everything and seeing where everything was. So,
Mhm.
why not try to fix something too? That makes sense.
All of that stuff was taboo in the Middle Ages in Europe. So
Hmm.
the
Well,
knowledge
not
of.
even all the way up until the
Mhm.
1800s it was.
Mhm.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was not acceptable to use a body for study.
I think if I'm not, if I'm, I think I'm not incorrect in saying that Benjamin Franklin used to do that as
I
well.
think so.
Yeah.
There's been some speculation he was carrying bodies into his basement for,
Yeah.
scientific
Mhm.
purposes, hopefully.
Uh, so one of the skulls belonged to a male that was dated from 2687 to 2345 BC, while the other was a female and dated from 663 to 343. So over 2,000 years between those two different patients. So
Wow.
going back well into one of the Egyptian empires there.
Cool.
So anyway, interesting.
That's a neat story.
Article number 2 tonight. Dengue fever, once confined to the tropics, now threatens the United States.
Oh, what?
Meg Norris was traveling in Argentina in April when the first signs of dengue fever hit her. The weather in Salta, just south of the Bolivian border, was warm, but Norris, a 33-year-old from Boulder, Colorado, zipped a fleece sweatshirt around her body to stop herself from shivering. She says, I thought it was sun poisoning. She woke that night in a sweat and spent the hours alternately burning up, then freezing. In the morning, her eyes were sore and her lymph nodes were swollen. For the following week, there was nothing to do but sleep, stay hydrated, and wait for the body aches that give the illness the moniker breakbone fever to pass.
Yikes.
Latin America is experiencing its worst dengue fever outbreak on record. Case numbers in the first 4.5 months of 2024 are already 238% higher than they were by this time last year, which
Jeez
itself
Louise.
ended with a record 4.1 million cases, according to the Pan American Health Organization. Cases are more than 400% higher than the 5-year average. And unusually wet and warm summer season brought by El Nino weather pattern has created ideal conditions for the mosquitoes that spread the fever to hatch in mass and carry higher amounts of the virus.
Daggone mosquitoes.
Experts warn that this could be a preview of what the fever will look like in the future. Climate change is creating unusually balmy conditions, which are already expanding the range of mosquito-borne diseases. That's concerning for places where dengue hasn't occurred before in recent history, North America and Europe, said Dr. Albert Coe, a professor of epidemiology of microbial diseases at Yale School of Public Health. The viral fever caused by 4 different viruses and spread through mosquito bites. It's common in many tropical regions across the globe, but has begun to appear in more temperate climates. The mosquitoes that carry the fever are now regularly found in the southern parts of the United States, but recently the insects have been found as far north as the Bay Area in Washington, D.C.
Goodness gracious.
One 2019 study predicted an additional 2 billion people will be at risk for the fever by 2080.
So it sounds like it was symptoms were similar to the flu.
Yeah.
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 Fun
Yeah.
stuff. Thanks for that one.
Yeah. It's made its way evidently to our area. So
yeah. Put on the bug spray.
Here's the one that CMC might be able to tell us a little bit more about. Probe into deadly Singapore Airlines flight finds sharp altitude drop cause injuries. Were you aware of this story of the flight in Singapore, Jenny? Have you been aware of that?
No, because I don't watch the news.
Well, I don't watch the news either. But there was a flight in Singapore that wound up with a bunch of injuries, and
was that recently?
Died on the flight. It was very recently. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I did. Maybe I did hear a little bit about that.
And so there were some injuries. So they're looking into the findings of it. So preliminary findings released on Wednesday of an investigation into a Singapore Airlines flight hit by severe turbulence last week showed that a rapid change in gravitational force and a 175-foot altitude drop caused injury. So essentially, this plane was flying through the air. It hit a pocket of different air temperatures, which basically caused the plane to drop 175 feet.
Ugh.
So imagine all of a sudden it just drops 175 feet and then it corrects itself. A 73-year-old passenger died of a suspected heart attack, and dozens were injured after flight SQ321 flying from London to Singapore encountered what the airline described as a sudden extreme turbulence while flying over Myanmar. The May 21st flight on a Boeing 777 plane carrying 211 passengers and 18 crew diverted to Bangkok for an emergency landing after the plane was buffeted by turbulence that flung passengers and crew around the cabin, slamming some into the ceiling. The aircraft experienced a rapid change in G. This likely resulted in the occupants who were not belted up to become airborne, the Singapore Transport Ministry said in a statement. The vertical acceleration changed from negative 1.5 G to positive 1.5 G within 4 seconds. This likely resulted in the occupants who were airborne to fall back down. Extracted from the flight data and cockpit voice recorders, the rapid changes in G over the 4.6 seconds duration resulted in an altitude drop of 178 feet. The sequence of events likely caused the injuries to the crew and passengers. Shaken passengers described scenes of chaos in the minutes after the incident, with the turbulence throwing people upwards, then into the aisle. Many left with bleeding and head wounds.
Man.
Photographs of the cabin showed gashes in the overhead cabin panels, oxygen masks, and panels hanging from the ceiling and luggage thrown around.
Ooh.
A passenger said some people's heads had slammed into lights above the seats and broken the panels.
Goodness.
Singapore Airlines said it acknowledged the report and was cooperating fully with the investigation. So there are pictures if you want to check them out online.
CMC said, buckle up at all times in airliners.
Yes. I think that was the biggest thing I took away from that story when I saw it originally happen last week was just if you were belted in,
you wouldn't have been flying around all over the place.
Which, I do notice if you fly, back in the day, they would be like, oh, you can unbuckle now.
Yeah.
And it was like but now when you fly, they kind of expect you to always stay buckled, like if you're not getting up.
I mean, the only time I ever unbuckle on an airplane is if I'm going to the bathroom or taking a child to the bathroom. That's it.
And I think that's probably a good thing to think about. After that, that's why, because the crew, it caught the crew completely off guard. And it was just like this temperature, bam. And
man.
So there we go. And then the last story for tonight is solar storm threat is back as giant sunspot clusters reappear.
I think I saw something about that today.
After unleashing the strongest geomagnetic storm in more than 20 years, the notorious sunspot cluster AR3664 is once again visible and still spewing copious amounts of radiation into space. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Space Weather Prediction Center recorded a solar flare erupting from the southeast limb of the sun on Monday. The sunspot is likely responsible for the flare, which was classified as a strong X2.8. Solar flares are categorized by the strength starting at B class, which are the weakest, all the way up to the strongest, which is the X class. The solar flare responsible for the geomagnetic storm that took place between May 10th to the 12th was classified as an X1.1, and so this one was a 2.8.
Was it pointed at us?
No, they saw it coming off the edge of it.
Okay. Yeah, I saw a picture of it.
NOAA warned that the charged particles released from the sun this week could reach Earth, although it may take a while to get here due to the location from which it erupted. So there you go.
Okay, it could affect us, but it wasn't a direct hit.
Yeah.
Because those solar flare, the last ones, like messed everybody up. Like all of us sensitive people were like not doing good.
Not doing good. And even just like regular things. Like I listen to a lot of radio going in the morning, and through like the internet, not even going over like radio band frequencies, but just through like Wi-Fi. And I was losing connection like way more than I normally would. One morning I couldn't listen to it at all.
Wow.
So the last time it was visible, it had grown to nearly 124,000 miles and was becoming one of the most active regions of the sun during this current solar cycle. The cluster is now gradually turning to face Earth again, appearing from the southeastern region of the sun. It appears as though the spot, now known as old AR3664 to stellar scientists, has slowed down since unleashing a solar storm on Earth. While it was still hidden from our view, NASA's solar orbiter spacecrafts observed an X12 class solar flare erupting from the violent sunspot. The flare resulted in a huge coronal mass ejection on the side of the sun facing away from us.
Thank goodness.
If the sunspot continues to release charged particles from the sun's surface, it may result in another solar storm. The storm that occurred earlier this month reached a rating of G5, the highest level on the geomagnetic storm scale. The radiation spewed by the sun led to disruptions in the power grid and radio blackouts, among other technologies and infrastructure. It also resulted in beautifully colorful auroras across the night sky around much of the world.
We didn't see any of them.
We may be treated to more auroras in the coming weeks, but hopefully the sun won't mess with our technology too much. Or our psychics, I guess I'll add. Leave our psychic mediums and channelers alone.
You're sorry, your sky sucks. I know. It was real pretty today. All right, let's get to our guests.
And that was the news.
Yay.
Okay. Raven Willow is a psychic who has connections with all energies on Earth. She communicates with beings from all over the universes. Raven helps people discover their life path by taking you down through all of your past lives, including your past experiences in this life. She delves into the topics of starseeds, the Akashic records, and cosmic connection. Please welcome to the show, Raven Willow. Welcome to the show, Raven. How are you doing?
Good. How is everybody out in Starseed land?
Well, there we go, and that's one of the things we can definitely get
about
tonight.
Did you have any, before we move away from the sun topic, did you feel any weird energy with the sun flares?
Yes, but I was also at Chaco Canyon, so I was purposely
looking for the weird stuff.
Yeah.
I like it. You're getting some props for your Tupac shirt. Like I said.
This is my wardrobe. It's always either some kind of hoodie or T-shirt of some music icon that I just love. No matter what it is.
Yeah. We can relate.
I can't dress up. This is just it. Yeah.
So, Frosty, you want to ask our first question of the night?
Well, I guess we'll start the easiest place to start, and that is how did all this stuff start with you with your journey here?
Well, it started when I was a child. I was seeing spirits and all of that stuff even as a child. And of course, then it was terrifying. You have no idea what's going on. You're just a kid. Um, but so I always knew I was different. I've always seen spirits, but I always felt and I've always said, like, I swear I'm an alien. Like, I am not human. I don't human. I don't people. Like, even though I'm a Libra and we're just like all like flirty and all up in everybody's faces and hey, like I'm just different and I've just known it like my whole life. And so I just kind of always just rejected all of these things that people try to put on you even as a kid. I
Mm-hmm.
just knew better. Like, m- I mean, I grew up. I know the South people don't consider West Virginia the South, but I didn't draw the border lines, okay, people.
Mhm.
But I grew up half in West Virginia, and my family wasn't like out and out racist people, but there was always that tone, like if my cousins or somebody would have dated a black man, like it was always there. But in my head as a child, I was always like, it's just a person. I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about. Like any of that stuff that comes down from your family or just like religion or I was always like, no, something's wrong here. I'm not grooving with this. And it just took me a really long time to figure it all out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 So, do you have anybody in your life as a kid that like you could relate to or that talked about weird things, or were you just like all out there by yourself?
My parents, which are both passed on, and if anybody sees spirits and things moving around me, it happens. You'll see it if you're psychic. Anyway, and my mom I just recently lost, so she's coming into her power, but they both had gifts, but they were blocked in by humanity and these things that we have to put ourselves in,
Yeah,
like
the
the
conditioning.
groups and the separations and the yeah.
Yeah.
So and they were part of the baby boomer era, and so they yeah. But back before them, like some of my like great grandparents and whatever on my mom's side were like big into the spiritualist movement though.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it's been in my family. There's just been a lot of people that ignored it. So yeah, as a
Mm-hmm.
kid, I was alone in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That happens to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I was just getting ready to say too. It's
yeah.
interesting when we bring up the spiritualist movement because we talk about this a lot, but you know the the big spiritualist movement at the end of the turn of the last century, and then we were talking a little bit with Corby Mitlide a couple weeks ago about, of course, like kind of the New Age spiritualist movement that happened in the '60s and into there. But there's a lot of people talking about, or maybe I'm talking about it, but I think a lot of people are talking about almost a new spiritualist movement that's taking place now. Would you agree with that?
I don't know if there is or if they're even doing it the same way as like in that era where I mean it was
Mm,
all about the seances and the
mhm,
Mm-hmm.
the portals and that kind of thing. Um
yeah. What
all I
was it?
can say that is that if people are gonna go down that road,
Hmm.
you like I will not work with Ouija boards. I do not do seances. One, I can see and hear and talk to everything anyway. I don't need
Mm,
that stuff. But even if there was like an expert Ouija person that knew how to like close that sucker, I still wouldn't go there.
Yeah.
So like
mm.
people need to know what they're like doing if they're gonna like get into that. That's all I can say about that. Yeah.
That's an interesting topic. That's an interesting topic because there's been so many different viewpoints on the Ouija board
Mm-hmm.
specifically as opposed to other definition methods. Do you think that the board itself has a different connection than, say, using other forms of divination like tarot or tea leaves or any of those things? Or do you think it's the
Pendulum.
fact that it's
Well,
or do you think it's just like a direct channel?
anybody and anything can create a portal, but a Ouija board comes fully equipped with portal, with a way to talk to you, and then it uses your energy. So you're already letting something else use your energy. That's very dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. And then once
Mm,
you open that portal, that's why a lot of things come through the Ouija. Like, you're not just going to talk to your dead Uncle Ray.
yeah,
Like things be coming through there. Yeah. So it's
I've
Yeah.
like already pre-designed to do what it does.
yeah, and so many people who maybe don't consider themselves to be psychic but are curious tend to have some kind of experience with witch boards and Ouija boards. That's one of the advice I guess I give when people are using them is like to know what you're like. I'm not necessarily against using them. It's just the idea of understanding what you're doing
Yeah.
and putting in the proper
Yes.
protections and setting an intent for who you want to talk to. Because I think this is just my thoughts, in my opinion. I have a feeling that the way that the board goes wrong is you have a bunch of friends that are over and maybe they're drinking like half a case of like Miller Lite or something,
At a
and
high
they get
school kegger, this
yeah,
happened to me. Yeah.
and they get the
I had the
board out.
Ouija.
Yeah, and everyone says, "It does anyone
Yes,
want to talk to him?"
anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then they go, "Oh, and then this crazy thing came through and it freaked me out, and
Yeah.
I'm never going to touch it
Yeah.
again."
Exactly.
But I imagine if you or Jenny, for that matter, were right now to open yourselves up and say, "Does anyone
I
want to
won't do
talk to
that.
me?" You
Mm-mm.
probably wouldn't get. You would probably get the same kind of scenario, right?
Yeah, the
Yes,
same
and I
thing could
don't do that.
happen
Yeah, I don't do
Exactly.
that.
without the Ouija board. Yep.
Yeah. And see, I don't need the Ouija board. I can open and close portals all by myself. So that's why I was saying, like, if you are into the Ouija, like, you need to master. It's kind of like becoming a demonologist. Like, you better know what the frick you're doing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
You can't just wake up one morning and be
Right?
like, "Okay, I'm gonna go
Yeah.
battle
Yeah.
this demon over here."
Yeah.
You gotta have some knowledge and practice.
Yeah. They need to put.
Otherwise, you put people in harm.
Yeah. Hasbro needs to put some better
Yeah.
instructions in there, maybe. And,
Yeah.
Please do not summon. Yeah.
There's so many demons.
All right.
So you were talking about feeling alien, and I know that star seeds is something that you seem to talk about often. So tell us a little bit about that journey for yourself, like figuring that out.
Well, just feeling so different, and also growing just all of my life. I feel the earth literally. And I'm a very strong empath to the point it cripples me a lot. Like,
Mhm.
I have to manage that a lot, and it's hard. Um, and animals, like, I in my Akashic records, I was part of creating this.
Oh
And
wow.
it's a whole and everybody is a star seed. Like, we stardust comes down through the earth all day, every day, gazillions of whatever the number is particles, and enters our body. All that, like, we are made up of stars. We
Yeah.
are all star seeds. So it doesn't matter if it's me or Johnny down the road. He's a star seed too. So it just depends on if you want to acknowledge it or not.
Yeah. So do you have like getting a little deeper into that though? Do you, because like a lot of people that refer to star seeds, like they feel like they have come from a certain place, or they have like more of a connection to a certain type of race of ET or a
Okay.
planet or something.
Well,
Like,
this is gonna
so
get
for
big.
we're weird
real
around here.
quick, before we dive into that, do we either
Well,
one
my
of you?
story is big. So
Do
Okay.
either one of you kind of briefly want to, because I think we have a pretty knowledgeable community, but for people who don't
Yes.
know what that
For
is,
people
do
who
you
are
want to say
listening who
what it is?
don't know what a
okay,
star. Well, she just talked
Akashic
like
records.
the general
Yeah.
topic of a
Yeah.
star
Mhm.
seed. Yeah.
But
Mhm.
the Akashic records are the history of every living thing throughout all time, of all universes, of everything. So your energy recycles and goes different places throughout the universe. I've had lives all over the universe. I have a huge story there. I have a huge story on Earth, multiple stories on Earth. Um, I see what's for coming for Earth. I have like things to do. Like it gets bigger and bigger and bigger the further you go into your Akashic records. So when I'm saying it's every little thing, like dudes, it can be a little bacteria. It still has a story in the Akashic records, and every person on this earth, like you make, they call them soul contracts to come here for your life. Like I am willing to do this and this and this and this and put up with whatever and this and this. And you make your life before you come here. But then you have possible futures because you have free will then you can, you know,
Yeah.
use what you got and then turn your life into what you want. So that's how the Akashic records also help people, because then it helps you connect with where all your energy has been all before and get that story so that you understand who you are and what you can really do.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so it brings it all together, and it also activates your DNA for your universal story too. So you start to open up and you start to ascend and enlighten, and then the things that you used to like TV shows or people to hang out with or whatever, like all of that stuff starts to shift in your life, and even the foods that you can eat, your body starts to shift. I'm going through a problem right now where I have very little that I'm finding that I can eat
Mm.
while I'm ascending. So you have to keep adjusting.
Yeah.
So it's a whole big process and journey. But in the end, once you get your Akashic records read, it like brings it. I like to pair it with telling people to get their astrology chart read,
Mm-hmm.
because that is very good and it ties in and gives a lot of information as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But it helps you understand who you really are and what you can really do. And you're not just human. And everybody has gifts, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody can do things like we're talking about here, but everybody has a different skill set. But people are, people get stuck in those like negative places. Well, then it's there, you have to find your way out of that.
Yeah.
And I've been to those places, and it's
Mm-hmm.
harder than hell to find your way out of it sometimes,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then along with those gifts, like what you were talking about, where you feel like that you have specific things that you're here to do. Like
Yeah.
that's something that keeps coming up for readings for people. For me, it's
Yeah.
like, it's time to remember. It's time
Yeah.
to wake up. Like now's the
Everybody's getting
time. Yeah.
activated. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 You came here for something and now it's time to do it. Yeah. Yeah. That
I
comes up a lot.
like my Akashic record is very big and very long. And so like my energy has a very hard time in this body. I have
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of like those like universal being DNA problems, like the inflammatory problems and those kinds of issues. So yeah, it's like my energy just wants to burst out of this because it feels too big.
That's what I was going to ask you. Does it feel too big for this little
Yeah.
body?
It
Yeah.
it gets to that point where then you have to like call in help from your guides and then from universal beings and all that to come and adjust you and help you, because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going down here, I'm going down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
So
body can't take much
yeah,
more of this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I
So
understand that.
there's the
So,
Akashic records. Welcome to Ascension, people. Are you ready to go?
Choo choo, jump on the train.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of interested in the star seed. It's something I haven't delved into a ton. I'm familiar with star seeds and our community, which we call Team Weird. We have all kinds of different things that are going on, and all kinds of
Mhm.
people who are kind of delving into different areas and sharing information. But so I know there are some people who are star seeds and feel like that's what's going on with them. But are all people star seeds?
Yeah. We're all from the universe. Every single one of us. There
That's
are
interesting.
there are I mean, but there's still star seeds too. The very, very negative entities from the universe. And then
Mm,
there's also like coming into Earth right now causing more chaos. Like uh they're not human at all and they're very bad when you get around them, but they full on look like a human,
Mm.
but they are not. So we've got that starting to happen because like humans are starting to awaken more and more and more. So that side's starting to like push in more and more and more. You know what I'm saying? It's like they
Yeah.
don't want to lose the ground.
Yeah.
mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like a modern day battle almost over the direction of humans to a certain degree.
Yeah. They're
Mm,
definitely trying to keep everybody down, and you could see the tension rising and rising and rising in the planet, and the planet's fighting back. So that's why, like you guys were like talking about the news and the virus or that thing going around, and
mhm.
like all of that stuff's gonna start keep happening, and crazy weather and volcanoes and earth, like it's all gonna keep happening.
Yeah.
Like the earth is like overrun, overpopulated, environmentally it's dying, and it's a living, breathing, functioning system is going to fight back too.
Yeah.
And so it's like people can't sit there and get mad that the freaking house burnt down. Like we did this.
Yeah.
We did this. Yeah.
It's like the body trying to fight off a virus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Not
And
that we're all viruses,
we didn't
but
need to do
maybe
this.
some people are.
Mm,
Yeah. 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 But the sad thing is we didn't need to do this. Like we could
Yeah.
have had free renewable energy this
Mm-hmm.
entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ask me, everybody should just sue the heck out of the government because Nikola Tesla had it all set up. We could have even
Yep.
had it right then and there. And yeah, don't even
mhm.
get me started on that.
Yep. Greedy people
Yeah.
trying to line their pockets instead of helping each other. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. So I want to know more about your Akashic story. You said it was a gigantic story, but
Mhm.
it not that you need to narrow it down any, but like give us some of the highlights. I want to know.
Well, I started in Andromeda Galaxy, and I actually often meditate to the sounds that come off Andromeda Galaxy.
Oh, neat.
I meditate a lot to the sounds from the universe. But yeah, and then I pretty much paraded around either Sirius, there's Venusian, um, everybody on Earth pretty much has Palladian in them to make a splend. Yeah. Then there was a lot of wars, like Mars was destroyed in a war, Venus was destroyed in a war, the Orion Wars. Not everything that happened in Orion was bad. Like it was kind of like a conglomerate of everybody kind of became nomads after these wars. So I'm Lyra Vega also. That's the ones you see portrayed as like lions and avian.
Ooh, neat.
Um, and Sirius A, Sirius B. I have a lot of Octurian in me. I've pretty much been like all over everywhere. And then I
Sounds
was
like it.
one of the original seven of the Anunnaki, if people have heard about them.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a big story there that started on Earth and just cascaded down from there. and to like I pretty much had to descend to be able to live human lives on this earth. So I
Mhm.
haven't had I've probably 10 or so human lives on earth that I've explored so far. And I'm always been female, and it's always been just a shit show. Like, I mean, burned as a witch, I was a slave. I mean, as a Native American Catholic dudes coming over and slaying everybody. I mean, it was just a shit show of all of these past lives.
Mhm.
But like I had to
Yay, Earth.
descend. Yeah, I know, right?
Why did I come here?
So yeah, so I remember all of this stuff from the universe, and especially like being like Lyra and Vega and Octurian, and it's very utopian, and there's not all this
Mhm.
chaos and all this noise, and like when you communicate with the beings, it's telepathically. Like they don't need to be yelling at each other. Like and I remember all of that, and so it makes it very hard for me to live on Earth, and so it makes it kind of hard for me to people. But I have to people if I want
Yeah,
to help the people. You know,
exactly.
yeah,
Yes. Yes. No wonder you feel like you were like, "What the hell's happening here?" If you've only had about 10 human lives.
yeah.
That's like nothing, especially if
I'm
they were all terrible.
yeah, and I'm still like I literally I just made a well I haven't sent it out yet, but I'm gonna go political today on my post I just made. I made a reel kind of about the military industrial complex,
Mm.
and then
Yeah.
put like a soldier saying not another one, like sadly. And then at
Mhm.
the end I'm like, I do not support you ever. And I'm gonna send it out because I'm just sick of this shit. It's like
Yeah.
and remembering all of this stuff, and then when you like go and like I can astral project, and I could I can leave my body too. It's a very weird
Mhm.
thing that happens to me. If I get, there's been situations where I've really been in danger and I'll pass out and like leave my body. So
Mm.
there's those things too. But yeah, I can like astral project, and I just go out in the universe when I meditate, and I'm just out there. And so you're like going through all these dimensions and interacting with all these beings, and then you have to come back to Earth, and you don't want to, and you kind of have to make yourself
Yeah.
like, dang it, and I'm like, okay, and then you're like, okay, now I gotta deal with this shit show again. You're
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
all
Oh, here we
right,
go again.
right.
Damn
Like,
humans.
people need to start learning, man. Yeah,
Yes. I'm always like, "We
Mm.
gotta get our shit together."
yeah,
Why can't
and
we get it together, people?
just I'm gonna put this out there too. Might be a political thing for your channel, probably not because you guys are who you are, but for everybody in the LGBTQT, if I messed that up and said it wrong, I'm so sorry. The community, you guys need to dig into your Akashic record. If
Mhm.
not me, find somebody else, because that is how the universe works. It works off of love, it works off of community and a collective consciousness. They can reproduce telepathically, they can reproduce like kind of scientifically, they can do all kinds of things. They can change their gender. If you research actual history in India, they talk about 27 different genders. So get your Akashic records read, please, that community.
Yeah.
There we go. I got
Yeah.
that out.
Mm.
Yes. We had a guest on, Cheryl Costa, who's actually gonna be back on, and Cheryl Costa lives as a woman now, but she was a man, went through the whole entire sex change, and, she really opened my eyes, because like, it's not like I didn't know this, but but really hearing it from someone who lived through it, who's living it, um, like, our souls don't have a gender, So, like,
We are literally neutral.
yeah. Yes.
Literally. Yes.
So what,
Mm.
this thing is a temporary thing for
Yeah.
us. So it's like, she was understanding that and feeling that, and that's it just made so much more sense to
Yes.
hear it put that way. And
And
it's,
once humans
yeah.
keep evolving and evolving and going
Mhm.
through this process, we will be able to just function like all the other universal beings
Mhm.
too. So
Yeah.
we won't even have to worry about reproduction and all of that stuff the way that it works
Yeah.
now.
It can
Yeah.
be less messy.
Yeah. Thank God.
That sounds fun.
That's been kind of interesting because that's a question that I've had. I've gone through a few past life regressions, and they've all really been something that gave me an insight for sure into what's happening now. But so far, all the lives that I've gone back to have all been male lives, and I feel like that's something that has happened to multiple people that I've talked to. Not that I haven't had a female past life, but it seems like you tend to, at least at the beginning, gravitate towards the same gender when you go back at first to start looking at your. Is that true, or is that just randomly been the way that it's been for me?
I've been female in all of my Earth lives. I've had other clients though that have been both.
Mm,
And then I've even come up with very specific people of who they were.
hmm.
So it just depends. Sometimes it's just general, but sometimes it gets specific. But
Yeah.
but you don't have that very like male dominant that icky thing that I call the icky thing. It's like
Mm,
it so you had to have had some kind of sacred feminine life within the universe or something like that on Earth.
well, I will say, not to make this about me, but just because that was a good insight there. I have in this life, I've always been drawn more to having women as friends. Like I tend to, I mean, I have male and female friends, or even non-binary friends and things like that. But I tend to, I don't know, feel almost more welcome sometimes in female circles. I don't
And
know why that. I don't know why that
and
is, but
I'm just gonna throw this out there. You have Venusian in you as well. You could have even lived as a male there, but it was very sacred feminine there, and the males understood that, and that makes it function equally. And so they
mm,
understand both parts. And so there's not this domination thing. It just flows equally. So
mm,
that's what people don't understand about sacred feminine or even like feminist in general. It's like, no,
Mhm.
dudes, we're asking to be equal. That's what we're asking for.
mhm.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
that's
wanted to
interesting.
ask you how you experience the Akashic records.
So since I'm such a history nerd, really bad history nerd, a- and I love books and I'm a writer and all of that stuff, when I go in, it literally presents itself like you picture those old libraries with like way up there bookshelves and like the ladders that ran in the thing and just like this never ending sea of books. But
Mhm.
there's the guides there, the masters that, and you ask them what you're there for.
Mhm.
And sometimes I get told like either I'm not ready for that info or that I'm asking about me or someone else. And so it has to wait. Um, and then if it doesn't, then it's like I just see all this movement in the background, but and then like whoever was talking with me, whichever one I'm talking to, they bring the information to me, and I'm like looking at it like a story,
Mhm.
and but I'm seeing it play out in my head too.
Like a movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then when I leave, like you have to like close it and say thank you for letting me like look into
So
this.
it's very interesting because I think you're like maybe the third person I've asked about that, and it's all pretty much the same the way people experience it. It's like
I
really
know one
going
guy
in.
though. I
Yeah.
know one guy that does Akashic record. He's actually the man that I got certified with. He lives in India. He's like Hindu, like old Hindu.
Mhm.
Like that's this guy. Um, now I just lost my thought because I was picturing him in my head.
He experiences it a different way.
Yeah, he experiences it when he goes in. He sees gears.
Ooh.
His mind is like, even taking the class, it was a little bit hard for me to keep up with him because he's very mathematical.
Oh.
So I'm thinking that's why he sees it as gears.
Yeah, that's probably.
But that's just my take on it. But that's what because he was saying everybody will see something different, like, or however they want to perceive it, or maybe how their mind works. He wasn't sure exactly why you get the vision that you get, but it obviously has to do with your personality and you know.
I love books and I love libraries, so I also get the library.
Yeah,
and I don't
but
have
it kind of makes sense though, because like the Grand Canyon is like the giant ancient library. So like if you think about it, like it is a giant library of information, and so that might be just why it always looks like that to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's interesting how, and I guess you can learn a lot about a person just by the way they perceive the Akashic records, I guess.
Maybe.
Because I see it as a library, but the best way I could explain it is if you were to like go to where like Merlin hung out, it's like a stone tower kind of thing with like a spiral stone staircase.
Yes.
And almost like has like an observatory at the top.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting to hear. It's very interesting to hear what everyone else perceives. The Akashic records looking like.
I talked to Merlin. I have to call on him to help like adjust me. I'm like, bring in the potions and the things. And what do you got? Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just an ascended master, Merlin. So yeah.
Yeah.
He was real. Just an ancient, just like all the ancient stories that we've had to dismiss because of religion or whatever. It's just one of those.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I got like a page and a half of questions. I need to look at them.
I know, I can really suck.
Well, one thing I want to talk about with the Akashic records. So I know that you can go in and do look at the Akashic records. Do you also help people access their own Akashic records, or is that something that can be done? Yeah.
Yeah. So people book sessions with me, and all I ask them for is their date of birth and their name, and I ask them for a picture of themselves because that's just because it's my modality of how I work. I need to like see a person's face. So I asked them not to show any background or anything around it. Just send me your face. So you don't need that for the Akashic records. The picture's just for me. But I go in and I get their Akashic records from their date of birth and their name, and I ask what information can be presented to this person, or if they had a specific question, I'll ask it and see if they're ready for the answer or if they're not. Some of them get huge and some of them are shorter. It just depends on how long your story is. But it also, people need to remember, just getting one Akashic records reading, like I am giving you a ton of puzzle pieces. Now it's your job to take that and put the puzzle together and figure out your life.
Yeah.
So, and so once I might do a 5-10 minute Zoom call with people before I do their record just to say hi. And I vibe them out because I remote view everything. Because if I've had people I've had to turn away because I could just sense that, they're very on the dark side and they're asking me to do things that I'm like, no, that's not what we do here.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. But other than that, So once I go in, I get all of their stuff, and I have a pine cone. I'm Anunnaki. Pine cones present themselves to me. This one presented itself to me, and it's the weirdest dang thing because somebody took a pine cone and like filled it. I don't even know if you can see it, but somebody filled it with like concrete or so. I don't know what it is. And so it shouldn't be feeling anything, but I found it in a spiral that people had made and leave like crystals or coins or whatever. But it was sitting in there, and I was like, what is that? But it kept like calling me, like it was honing in on me. And I'm like, this is mine. And so I took it, and then I had to replace it with, then I brought back something because I took it. But I hold on to this while I'm doing any reading, even if it's not Akashic, even if it's just a psychic reading for people. And I have a notebook, and I just write, scribble. Sometimes I draw if I see stuff. I don't know if I can get to one of those pages, but because I'm an artist too, but I'll like sketch out really quick what I'm seeing. It's like sometimes it's a guide, sometimes it's a person in a past life that I'm seeing. So I get it all down like that. And then it takes me hours to put together this very long, very detailed, with images, with descriptions, with places you could go to research, with all kinds of information on a PDF. And so by the time I'm done, I'm into this like hours. So when people ask me, why is it $200? I'm honestly like, I'm more powerful. And what I'm doing for you, I could actually charge you a hell of a lot more. And I'm actually making like $9 an hour doing this. So
it sounds like that you need to charge more than $200.
yeah. Like I'm just trying to like keep it affordable for people because I want people to get the help that they need.
I feel the same way about my stuff too.
Yeah, like when people like, I've had people like say like, this is ridiculous. Why am I paying $200?
Yeah.
Like,
well, then go find somebody else.
Well, yeah. I mean, of course, I wasn't meant to read them, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, I'm like, that's why, because it takes that long between me prepping and then going in and getting the information. That takes a lot of my energy. Then I need to recoup and like pull in healing energy and all of that. Then I have to go in and make all the information so that you have something to reference.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal.
It sounds like a really cool reading.
Yeah, I love the big ones because it's like I get so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, and they have this, and then this happened. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
I know, isn't it so fascinating to see the stories of people's lives? It's amazing.
It is.
Even like the ones that seem boring, they're like, oh, this is cool. You know, like. So do you have, speaking of all of this stuff, not to give pertinent information away about any of your clients, but do you have a specific story about when you have done this for someone and then it like really opened up something for them, or it really changed the way that they saw their life or changed their life in general?
Yeah, like I do have a few of my readings that are online on my YouTube page or on my website, stuff like that, that it's either somebody I know or it's somebody I've done a podcast with and I've done a reading with them. But other than that, I keep my clients like HIPAA. Like,
yeah, that's why I was saying, like, not without sharing any information.
Yeah. So you guys, anybody can watch those that I've posted, but
cool.
Like I have one guy that I've never, like, I'm a medium too. So, and I get, like, I can see spirits all the time, but I get specific spirits that I'm supposed to help. And I get a lot of suicides, and that's just my thing. I don't know why, but my empathness can handle that. But this one client is a military person, and he didn't understand that he was a medium. And I read everybody before I even meet them. But this guy was actually live. Like, he was at like face to face with me, but I still read him before I met him. And like, I have never seen a medium have this many spirits needing their help
Oh,
to
wow.
get unstuck. It was a never ending, like never ending sea of military just
Oh.
destruction and people and suffering from just not just America, like all over from every war that has ever been on the like in it I'm starting to cry right now.
Oh my
My
goodness.
my empath this could not handle it and I broke down and
Mhm.
I'm like, you have to get to the point where you can clear these people because that just doing that alone will raise the vibrations of the earth so much. And like there was so
Mhm.
many people, and I even gave him a specific thing. I'm like, you were at Pearl Harbor, not like in the war, but like you went and were standing on top of the Arizona. You took a vacation there, didn't you? And he said, yes. I'm like, those men in that ship were going ding, 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 trying to get your attention.
Wow.
And yeah, that was like the most intense thing I've ever experienced as a medium because like I'm an empath. I don't get I don't get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But because he can relate to them
Mhm.
because he was them, he can help them let go of that guilt of what they had to do. And so I'm like, you've got to
Mhm.
get to that point where you build yourself up so that you can do that.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
know if he ever did?
We're still working on it.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like, and I helped a few of them that came forward to me, but that was all I can handle.
Yeah.
And then I had to hibernate. My empath had to go hibernate for like a few days after that one. Yeah.
Sounds
That was tough.
intense. Yeah.
So, and that's the thing people need to understand about people that do this. Like, it takes a lot out of us
Mhm.
sometimes, and we have like we're down and out. Like we are like tired and exhausted and like needing like energy help and spiritual help and all of that stuff after some of this happens.
Yeah. Whenever I've come across the stuck spirits or the ones that really need help, that those are the most draining for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talking to somebody's grandma's fun, but like dealing with somebody who's like stuck, and like
Yeah.
doesn't even understand what's happening to them.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And
Yeah.
it's you yeah, you gotta like be prepared if you're a medium because
Mhm.
like I as a and I'll talk about this as a medium because it's public knowledge and it was in the news. A transgender woman, um, it was so weird that day. I still like worked out in public, which was exhausting, like going to work every day. And I
Mhm.
went to work and this weird 80s song came on that was that one song, Don't Close Your Eyes. I don't know if I'm Gen Xer. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, whatever. But it's about suicide, and I was like, "What is this
Oh.
song?" Like, I'm driving, I'm like,
Mhm.
"Why is this playing?" Like, anyway, and it was just weird, and I kept driving, I got this weird feel, I'm like, Some shit's gonna go down today." Like, I could just feel it, and then I went to work, and it was just right down the road, and then I later on at lunch, I went and I came back, and then when I came back and I used to work like EMT stuff, healthcare, and so I know when they have cordoned off a scene with fire trucks and cars and everything so that nobody
Mhm.
can see. I'm
Yeah.
like, there is a body blown apart or some mangled
Yep.
ash in there.
Mhm.
So I was like, oh, and then as soon as I was there, I like knew who it was. Like I didn't know her, as in like it hadn't been reported yet,
Yeah.
but she was talking to me, and she jumped in front of a dump truck that was
Oh
going
my
60 miles an
goodness.
hour.
Mm.
That's how sad she was that she did that. So I got her. So yeah, when and then after that, people reported on it because this is kind of a small town in Utah, and so it was like, oh, transgender gal.
Yeah.
But it was like, and I what I had to do for her male side was literally tormenting her on a constant basis, kind of like a demon would,
Oh my
and I
goodness.
I literally had to kill it. I had to kill the
Wow.
male side of her to free her, and I don't have a clue how I knew how to do that, but I
Mhm.
just did. And then she's free, and she pops up in once in a while, once in a great while, just to say hi, but she's
Yeah.
off and doing whatever to the next life.
Good.
Yeah. So you be prepared if you're mediums, people.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
a process.
There's things that I've done too that I don't understand, like how I would have known what to do or how to do
What
that,
is
or
what is
you
it?
know,
What is
like
one of yours?
all kinds of different things. There was one most recently that I've actually been thinking about more. That it was just like I was in the flow of everything, so it's just the way that it happened. But I'm like, was that the right thing to do? Because it was
I
somebody who had like this kind of nasty presence that was with them. And the guy said that he was there under a contract, that he was contracted to be there for this person. And I was like, no, we're not doing this anymore. I was like, give me the contract. And I just ripped the shit up and he had to leave.
Do you know what
But
you just did?
what? Tell me.
You literally you tore a soul contract from an Akashic record.
I did. Was that okay?
Yeah, like
Okay.
you could break contracts, like if the
Because I was
person
like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't have done that.
no, like, but I'm telling you, like, you could be an Akashic Records reader. You're already like messing with them right now.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I've gone into the Akashic Records a lot. It's
People aren't telling you guys aren't telling me anything.
well, I mean, this is for you to tell your story, but you know, like the way that I read, I just get told what kind of reading that I'm supposed to do for the person. So sometimes they are past life readings, and we do go to the Akashic Records. But
Yeah.
yes, thank you for telling me that was okay. I feel much better now.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I just went through that process with my friend that we were going to do a lot of business together. Like we're going to really build this thing.
Good.
Her name is Meryl Acton, by the way. You guys can look her up on the Instagram page. But she just had to DNA like fix my DNA and do an activation on me, and I was literally removing contracts and tearing
Okay.
them up
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
because I've like at this point in my life I have, with the exception of a sprinkling of cousins, I don't have any family left. Like I needed them all behind me, not stuck in their earthly box, and so I wrote that into my soul contract for
Oh
this
wow.
life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still adjusting to that and that pain because I lost my mom, just not even, it was back in November. So
Yeah, that's
like
not a lot of time.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's like helping fix me and like adjust me and from that experience.
Yeah.
So I was tearing up contracts. So you did the same thing.
Okay,
I was
good.
like,
I'm glad I was okay.
like, nope, we're not doing this anymore. I'm like, I'm done with that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we can pick right up there, but I did want to say we've already gone past the 9:00 hour, so we're halfway done with our conversation tonight. And I just wanted to use that as a cue for all of you out there who are watching live, whether you're on Twitch or on YouTube. Feel free to start throwing your questions in chat, and we will highlight them and get to them the best we can. And so we'll start asking some of those if you throw them in chat. I did want to go ahead and note for everyone who's listening later on the podcast, but we have the website psychicempathravenwillow.com. That is where you want to go check out Raven. That's pinned to the top of the page, and if you're listening to the podcast at a different time, that'll be listed down in the section below the video, so you can go check that out, and you can go check out all the things that Raven has going on. So that'll be listed down
Which
there.
is a lot of stuff.
Yes. So you can go check that out.
Kind of like me. That's why I was excited to talk to her. It's like, oh, it's somebody else who does a lot of stuff.
Yeah. It's hard because when people ask you, well, what do you do? And I'm like, I'm kind of everything.
Yeah,
that's all I can say is I do everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's true because some people, we've interviewed quite a few people, and just within our community, we talk about this, on the daily, just about, I guess. And you do have people who are highly specialized that kind of choose to deal with one thing, and then there are people like Jenny, and now that we've met you, Raven, who just kind of have all these different areas. It's all connected, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I guess it just depends on what you choose to work with and whether you're willing to take on all those other areas.
Jenny, are you like this? Like, this is how me and my friend Miro are. Like, the question why, like wanting to know more. That's why I'm here and not just stuck in one modality. Do you feel like that too?
Um, yeah, I guess sort of. I mean, I feel like I'm just like that in everything because I'm also an artist too, and I'm like that with my
Yeah.
art making too. Like
Yeah.
I just do everything.
Yeah.
So it's the same way with my medium
Yeah.
and psychic things. Like I just do everything. And
See,
it's
for
just like
everything.
who I
You
am, I
probably
guess.
you probably have a big record too.
I do. I've seen it.
Like, yeah, like she's got a
It's like a
huge,
whole room.
huge record. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big room.
Yeah.
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 Okay. So I still have more. I got more questions on my list here while we're waiting for questions from the chatters. So I've heard people talk about having alien DNA. And like, we were talking about like the spiritual side of like the alien type of things because we're all star seeds and we come from different places and we've had lives on different places. But like, what is the difference, if there is a difference, about the alien DNA? How does that fit into all of this?
So we all have alien DNA in us. So yes, humans, like our nearest relative on this planet that scientists are willing to say so far is the chimpanzee. So yes, we were made and manufactured, but we're made and manufactured with alien DNA. So I have all of that DNA with me from all of those places I traveled before I got here.
So is it from the energy of your soul going through those things?
Yes.
Okay.
Your
It's like
energy
becomes part of
carries
the DNA too.
Yes. And
Okay.
then it impacts your own body too, negatively or positively, depends on where your mind is. Or like I said, once you start ascending, then your body starts changing and you're like, yeah. So
I guess because it's all energy, right?
yes.
Yeah.
It's all like, people need to understand we're all a collective energy. So the more positive people we get out there, like, the better it's gonna get.
Yes. We got to get past the 50% mark here.
Yes. Yes.
Let's swing this shit the other way finally.
Right? I know. I'm like, everybody get over yourselves. Come on. Let's just party.
Yes. Let's be positive and good times.
Yeah.
So we had a couple questions in here. I think you kind of answered them in chat that were kind of going there about, but that would be a good question for either of you. Luce was asking, what was your first, what was the experience with your first past life regressions and how that kind of started for you? I guess we could ask that for both of you, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I'm a total history nerd. I already said that, but anything that I really resonate with history-wise, I know it's a past life of mine. But the first time I actually saw one, like, I was just walking up my driveway, and then all of a sudden I was somewhere else, and I was literally at Stonehenge.
Ooh, cool.
So, like, I've experienced them that way too.
I had that happen one time, hearing bagpipes. Somebody was playing bagpipes on the on the college campus, and I was like looking at the ground, and all of a sudden I wasn't there anymore. I was like in a forest, and I had these like little like green boots on, and I was like, "Oh, what's going on?"
Yeah, but I wasn't at the Stonehenge you see today. I was at old Stonehenge. with the wooden
Mhm.
hinges and yeah.
That sounds awesome.
It's kind of interesting because people, and then people not even doing past life regressions, but then you have the people who have memories of their past life when they're young.
Yeah.
And so there can be those experiences as well.
Yeah.
Which I've seen a little bit of, and of course we have it used to be right down the street. Now it's a little further down the street, but right up in Charlottesville, Virginia, at the University of Virginia, there's a professor there, and a whole department there that focuses on the study of past lives. So
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yes, it's fascinating stuff.
It's so cool. But so I've had clients where it's like, okay, prepare yourself, because it's not all the time like you are a good person. Like you got to be like prepared for that.
Oh yeah. Frosty has one where he was
Mhm.
like a highwayman. Yeah.
In what I think was like Bavaria or something like that is the feeling that I got in like the Middle Ages. And
He was like
that's
robbing people and stuff.
Yeah.
Terrible.
and the way that we did it is like, it was very kind of a format to how we did it, because it was like a group regression that we did. And at one point, you fast forward to your death scene, how did this person die? And I was stabbed like under the arm. Like someone, I tried to rob them with like a group that I had, and I got stabbed underneath the arm. And then it was like, I don't know how much later, me and Jenny had discussed, and I was like, getting ready for bed one night or something. And she's like, where did you say that you got stabbed at or whatever? And I was like, oh, like right under the arm. And she was like,
he has a
you have
birthmark right there about this big.
And it's like in the shape that like it could be a knife,
like a stab wound. Yeah.
And I was like, I don't really look at it because I'm not like staring down all the time. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. But it was confirmation for me, that I wasn't just making this stuff up in my head, when I was doing it. So
I wanted to go back to the pine cone. You were talking about like the Anunnaki, and then you said like you were referencing it to the pine cones. What's the correlation between the Anunnaki and the pine cone?
If you look at any of the carvings of the Anunnaki in ancient Sumeria, Babylon, any of the old carvings, they're all holding pine cones, or they're holding them like this.
Pine cones. Yes. I never realized that before.
Yes.
Weird.
So, all 7 of them are holding pine cones. Even the two women. Yeah. and pine, like I know pine cones just fall from the tree and they're everywhere. But like certain pine cones literally present themselves to me, and then I'll bring them back to my home and I'll put them out, and then they'll bloom. And I just hold them, and they're just very special to me. So it's because of that. It's because of that past life.
That's really cool. Yeah, I never realized that about the pine cone in the carvings.
These are considered knowledge, a symbol of knowledge. So,
yeah, that makes sense. I have to hold rocks, stones, gemstones, crystals when I do my readings.
I'm always. I got stuff everywhere. I got dragon eggs over here.
Yes, the crystals give me the extra whatever energy or whatever. Yeah.
Well, that does bring up, since we're going back to the Anunnaki, that is something that we could talk about a little bit, because the Anunnaki and Nibiru and those things started becoming pretty popular. I feel like anytime I turned on some kind of woo-woo show, we would be talking about the Anunnaki and Nibiru. Are there any things that, as that became more mainstream and more people started talking about that, was there anything that you felt they were getting right about that, or it was something that was being misconstrued? And how does your conception of that mix with kind of what was happening kind of with the mainstream idea of what happened with the Anunnaki?
So, I mean, I have the Gaia app. I don't know if you guys have that app, but there's people on there that I agree with what they say. There's people on there that I don't, because I very much vividly remember this life, and I
Mhm.
was one of the original 7. And so my twin was on, and pretty much the Anunnaki got it on with them, all of themselves and everybody, and like that's just the way it was.
Party
So
time.
yeah, getting it on with the people they made, like yeah. But when people talk about the slavery part of it, one, I'm wearing a Tupac shirt, so please be careful what you say. I'm not talking about slavery as we know it today. Please understand that, people. Okay. It People call it slavery and they get on this slavery topic with the Anunnaki. They were creators. They were creators of life. So yes, did they make a race of beings to harvest gold for them? Yes. But it was not because it was gold in the monetary way that we look at gold now. They break it down and it's non-atomic gold. I actually use it. I have it. Anyway, but it is also like a cell regenerator. It helps protect their ships like from heat and different things. Like they used it for a lot of different things and a lot of applications. So whether it's in the body or whether it's with the technology, like people also need to understand that this ancient technology and our bio bodies, we are technology. But yes, and from just from what I've picked up from going into my own story, and this is just my opinion, whatever, I'm thinking it's the Bigfoot race. Bigfoots do not like people, and there's a reason why. Like they don't want anything to do with us. So that's what I think that Bigfoot is. I mean, they're big, they're huge, they could work, they could mine, but they needed it to build life. So it's not the same as saying about slavery as humans have done it. So that's not what I'm talking about at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get what you're talking about there a lot because like I teach history, so we have to get into ancient slavery. And the way I always explain it to my students is like, especially as Americans, we think of when we hear that word, we think of one historical time period and in American history, and we talk about that
But any
when we talk
slavery on
about
earth.
chattel, like chattel slavery specifically. And I almost think like and I don't know if this is true, but I've always heard that like Norwegians have like many different words for love, because the way that you love your wife is not the same way you love your mother, which is not the same way you love your child, not the same way that you love your, whoever, grandma, your friend. And I almost feel like that becomes an impediment to teaching sometimes, is using that word slavery, because we have to realize that there's different forms, but we end up using the same word. But so I
think
get exactly what
we
you're
were just talking about
trying to
that
say
on
there.
the last episode about how words can have like these different connotations, and it makes it
The
complicated.
word sin
Yeah.
is, well, now it's a very dangerous word. To tell people that you are a sinner when that is your religion, you're pretty much telling them you're a piece of shit. So, but the word sin is literally an ancient Babylonian goddess, a goddess of the moon. Her symbol is a crescent moon. Sorry, Muslims. It's a female symbol. 13 cycles of the moon. It's a female thing. But her name was Sin. And, the people that worked the Bible and worked up the patriarchy and how that all played out and trickled down, took that story and said, oh, this is sin. Females are sinners. Oh, they were the temptresses. And they, then they just like expanded it from there.
Yeah.
But to see sin, it used to be a goddess. Now it's like a very dangerous word.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much all the ancient
a lot of
goddesses.
stories like that. Yeah.
That's where most of the demon names and stuff come from, are from the ancient goddesses. They got moved into the other realm real quick.
Yeah.
And all the other gods in general. So
yeah.
Yeah. So that's always interesting too, which brings in a whole different thing about when you deal with modern day ideas of demonic possession and good versus evil and just demonic possession itself. That's one of the questions I have about that is what do we know about actual demons when we deal with demonology, because so many of those names come from other entities that were considered to be gods and good beings before the Abrahamic religions.
Yeah.
So
Well,
just more questions.
even Lucifer, like
Mhm.
it's like, um, no, he, and according to the Bible, he's God's son. He's an angel. So would people would like, especially young people or something that want to like call themselves Satanists and Lucifer and this, and I'm like, you do realize that's a Christian angel, right? Just saying, yeah.
Mhm.
So even that, it's like people can take you can put everything is with intent. So
Yeah.
like I consider myself a pagan as in like human form because the earth is my church and I have like native background and native past life histories and all kinds of native everywhere, even in
Yeah.
Africa, native Africas and yeah. So the earth is my church. So I do spells and things like that sometimes, but it's intent. Like if I want to like curse an object, I can freaking curse an object if I want to. So it's yeah. It's just like the energy and the intent that people put into it. And if you get an attachment or you get possessed, like some people walk into a situation where they don't even know like any like they're not even believers in the paranormal, but they're obviously open to it because these things start interacting with them and then all of a sudden like life is all crazy and trashed and like you can get people to kill themselves and all kinds of stuff. So it
Mhm.
you don't necessarily have to be in like a negative place. You could just like land in the wrong place at the wrong damn time. And if you don't know what's happening to you, then how do you get rid of it? But then there's
Yeah.
Yeah.
people that are in negative places or like especially people that are addicts are at real risk for getting like attachments and stuff because they
Mhm.
they go out of their minds with the drugs and so they're not themselves anymore. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that has always been. Well, that was always. Have you ever heard of a gentleman called Father Malachi Martin? Have you ever heard anything about him before? He was interesting. He was a Catholic priest. One of the people that they kind of based the story of The Exorcist from. He was like one of the Catholic,
Okay. Okay.
kind of one of the priests who was working inside of the Vatican, who was kind of fighting to for doing exorcisms and kind of he wasn't excommunicated, but he was kind of a black sheep in the Vatican. Uh, that it's a whole story to go into, but it's the interviews that I've heard with him have always been kind of interesting because he talked about that being the number one way that demonic possession could occur, and that was from things like drug addiction. From the, I mean, it wasn't like, oh, you play Dungeons and Dragons or you watched
Yeah,
Nightmare on Elm
no.
Street,
No.
so now,
I'm
but it
a
was like,
total metalhead, like no.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, you listen to Metallica
Yeah,
yeah.
sometimes.
yeah.
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 The route to demonic possession from his point of view and from the scholarly side of the Bible was that severe dependence on chemicals and drug addiction and or other kinds of addictions, not just drugs, were the way that demonic possession could come into to play. And he talked about things like perfect possession, which is something else that we've kind of been skirting around because we've kind of talked about this idea of NPCs lately. Listening to some Dolores Cannon lately. But the
Background
idea
people.
that there's people who walk through the world and they're completely possessed, but once someone's completely possessed, that there's just like really nothing of them left. You could walk past them on the street and have no clue because there's no battle
Are
going on
these
anymore.
people that have a birth story, like they were birthed from someone, or is it the people that I was talking about that look like people but are not peoples? And they're
Well, I guess at
very
this point it
negative.
would be a person who, well, according to, not to put words in his mouth, and he's passed. So, but the way that he explained it was a perfect possession was someone who had been possessed, gone through the battle, gone through a point in time where they could have been exorcised, but it didn't happen. And so they had completely been taken over by the demon, and so their soul was no longer part of that human being. So it was just like basically a thing to keep an eye on when you meet that person, and they essentially like seem to have like no emotion, and they just kind of like live their life going from A to B to C to D.
Yeah.
That could be a sign of someone who is perfectly possessed.
People need to just watch how you live your life. Like I mean, life is shitty. Life is shitty for everyone. Like I don't care who you are or how much money you have. Like life is just shitty and you've got to fight through it. But if you just get into those negative places or, just getting into like that habits of getting up, going to work, coming home, drinking a bunch of beer because I fucking hate my life, and getting up and going to work and coming out. Like even those kinds of things are very harmful to you and invite negativity because if you're in a negative place, you're attracting negative things.
Yeah.
And like I'm saying, I'm being adjusted right now just from going through what I freaking went through with my mom dying and then losing other people on top of it. And that's a whole nother story. But like I got filleted out. So, but I understand that I have to get help.
Yeah.
And that's the problem if people don't understand what's happening to them.
Yeah.
Yes. They just get stuck in the pattern and don't realize there's other options.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I still got more questions.
Okay.
All right. Keep us going. Keep us going.
Okay. So you kind of touched on this at the beginning of the conversation. There was part of your introduction was talking about being able to communicate with beings from all over the universe. Mm-hmm. So I want to know who, what, and how.
Well, it's all through meditation. Like people get sick of hearing about, sorry, something's moving around me, and I'm like, go away. There's a spirit that hangs out in the building that I propped my stuff up in to do this today, and I'm constantly like, I'm not here to bother you. Just go do whatever you're doing. Anyway, I got off track. What was your question?
You were talking about, you were just saying that you usually connect to the other beings in the universe through meditation.
Yeah. So all my clients and everybody rolls their eyes every time we say the key is meditation, but it is. But meditation doesn't have to be you just sitting there with your arms crossed and doing this and and whatever. Like it can be going out in nature. It can be doing art. It can be any kind of creative thing, like things that get your mind settled so that it's not going, and I got to do this, and well, this happened today, to get all of that out of there. And so it takes practice. And I make my clients set a timer. Like start at 10 minutes. You can kick everything that's going on in your life out of your head for 10 freaking minutes. And every time that thought starts coming back in, nope, out. And just let your brain be quiet and just add more time and more time and more time. And that's how you practice. But then once you get there and you start being able to astral project and go farther out with your projections and what you can see, and now you're out in the universe, everything is telepathic. They communicate with you telepathically. And then when they're healing me, I can feel them touching me. Different beings feel different ways, and like especially if Octurians show up to heal me, they're because they're very just like utopian in their brain. And so for like a person, they'd probably see like brood or brash or something because they just come in and just do what they've got to do. But it's very comforting. but they're just like, do what I got to do, and okay, love you, bye. That's it.
Mhm.
So but then like when Lyra show up for me, like the lion that I see, I call him Papa Lyra. He's very big and very white, and he comes in to heal me empathically. So each one interacts differently, but everything's telepathically. And then once you're in the meditative zone, like I am out of my body, like I can see them come in, and I like can feel them touching me, and like as if I'm looking at you.
So you see a visual of what they look like.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah.
The ebens are really cool. They're just little love bugs. They're like the one, like, you know how people depict the grays looking, but they're like short and like fatter. Those are the ebens. They're the cute little ones. They're kind of in the fairy world. They kind of keep the earth. They're part of the elementals, and I work really well with elementals, and like I even deal with skinwalkers, and I don't have a problem. Like I know how to deal with elementals, so that's one of my little niches too, I guess.
Are they the blue ones? The little short blue ones?
They're not blue. They're
They're not
like
the blue ones.
yeah, they kind of look a little bit opaquish, like their skin, but they look kind of creamy or tan, and their
Okay.
eyes are big, and they're just like big love bugs, and they're always around kids a lot that I've noticed. Just a lot more star seeds that are being born right now. Kids that are being born are like, when you're around them, you know they were not like you were when you were a kid.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of like, my niece is surrounded by them, and she talks to them all the time. And they're out in her garden, and she just lost her daddy, and she's a
Aw.
very, very young child. And I'm like, she talks to him. So I had to tell my cousin, like encourage her, because they're there to help her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They sound cute.
I love the evens. It's like, oh, give me some love bugs, man. I need some love bugs. Yeah.
So we had a couple of interesting comments here. Keisha was saying, I've been told I'm ready for the next step, just not sure what that is yet. And Luna was talking about, Luna's also an artist. I relate to the art part because it's where I go when I do art, from singing to drawing. It's a journey in the wide and vast universe. Like I'm there, but I'm not there at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like anybody that gets creative, like once you get going, because I do all kinds of things, make crap out of other crap, and then I do oil paintings that are really beautiful. And all
You sound like the way I explain things. I make shit with other shit. Yeah.
But like once you're in the zone, like you're just like, da, 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 and it's just like coming out and just like flow. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we've been talking about that a lot. And I think that it's really important for people that want to get into meditation but don't know how, to realize that that's another way to do it.
Yeah.
To create.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because really that's just another form of manifestation, right? I mean, to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And it, especially any kind of artist, you're either drawing from your own experience, or like when I get to painting something, I'm just like, the stuff comes out. I don't know. So
I've done that with writing before too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I do it when I like spirit draw guides. Some of my guides I've like automatic drawn. So let me clarify that. When I do readings for people, and I've got my pine cone that I was talking about, and I'm writing in my book, I'm getting all of that information told to me, and I'm writing it down myself.
Yeah.
But I do some automatic drawing so that I can see what some of my guides look like, because they don't come through to me quite yet. But they'll present themselves to me that way sometimes.
That's interesting. So you feel like you don't see your guides clear, like all your guides clearly sometimes?
Well, I have a big team.
Yeah. Because I feel the same way. Like I feel
have
like I only know like
thousands of things around me. So
yeah.
it's it's almost like they wanted me to draw them
Yeah.
for some reason or another.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And it doesn't, and they never look like something that I would draw or I would paint. Like you can tell it's not my style at all because it's very scribbly looking and
Oh,
all
yeah.
over the place. But you can tell at the end, you can tell it's a face. It's very strange. Yeah,
That's cool.
very
I'm just
strange.
I'm going to be in the process of starting an oracle. I want to make an oracle deck of portraits of the different beings and guides and stuff that we've seen over the
I will buy
years.
that.
Yeah.
If you make that, I
Yeah.
will buy that.
It's going to take a while because I haven't started it yet. I got to make each one from the beginning, but I really want to do that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because there's so
Yeah,
many
that's really interesting.
there's so many interesting, we'll just call them people because I think that's a good word for everybody. There's so many interesting people out there in the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be interesting too, to like almost like a different form of spirit art, you know, where you're like different places and entities and yeah, there's lots that can be done. Lots that can be done.
I've drawn pictures for my clients either of their spirit animal or if they've had an attachment, I've like drawn the attachment like that for them. Yeah. And then I have to put them in because one of my past lives, I was like kidnapped with my sister and my family from Africa and brought over in slavery and that nastiness and ended up in Louisiana. And I still remember hoodoo very vividly. So I actually have a hoodoo jar. So anything negative because once I draw it, I give it energy.
Yeah.
And then I have to fold it up and I put it in that jar to hold that energy until my client's ready to release it. Yeah.
That's an interesting technique.
Yeah, that's I'm like you. I'm like I can't say what I am because
No.
it's everything.
Just a weirdo who does a bunch of weird stuff.
Right? Yeah.
So now we might be going I think this might be down a darker path. I was looking through your website and I think is it like you have like you're writing like blog posts about different things, right?
Yeah, and classes. Yeah.
One of them was the Draconians. I don't know what that is. What is that?
That was a bad day. That was bad.
I thought it was something bad, but I want to know.
I have never there's very few times now after everything I've done and seen and beings and whatever that shock me. And anything new that I do see, I always just vibe it out first because just because something looks scary,
it doesn't mean
I have the mantis people come in and help heal me.
Yeah, and they're
I mean,
they're not bad.
You got to vibe it out. But this is a universal being. This is an alien, if people want to call it that.
Yeah.
So, and it's the negative ones, and they basically control all of the negative that is going on here. And it's got a longer story with me and my other sister from the Anunnaki. It was one of her children. And Inanna and the Anunnaki had a lot of children that went dark side into the underworld, and she had to go down and battle a lot of them. But anyway, I was just like chilling in my room with my dogs, and I could feel this energy coming in, and I always have protections and all this stuff around my house and me and whatever, because I'm even if as a medium, I'm like, you make an appointment. Like you don't just show up and be
exactly.
So
the open light is not on right now.
Yeah. And so I was like, what the crap? And it was like getting really just negative feeling and then it came into view. But I thought it was like some kind of negative spirit, because I
Mhm.
have never encountered this yet
Yeah.
as an alien. And I just walked up to it and like was like not trying not to show fear or anything like that, because I'm like, I don't want to interact with you, and want to like, and it was trying to like show me that it was going to control my destiny, and I was like, my destiny is mine.
Yeah.
And then it went away, but then hours later it came back, but it literally came through whatever of all dimensions of where that thing lives out in the
Mhm.
universe, and was
Mhm.
in my space,
Mm.
physically in my space. And I drew it the best that I could, but it had this like, and I hate the look and sound of brown noise, because that was what, like, this brown was like radiating all over this thing. And from it, I felt every single negative thing wrong with the earth all at one time. And because I am an empath, and because I have this big long universal story, and because I am who I am, it literally had me pinned to the floor, and I felt like my body was being ripped the hell open.
Holy
And I was
shit.
in so much pain, and I didn't know what to do. And I just kept calling for my guides to help me, help me, help me. And then I was finally able, like it left, but I was like still in the state, of course. And I'm fumbling with my phone, like trying to call my
Mm.
friend who was Anana, who and she put it in a Metatron's cube and got it. It was looking for her, but because I
Mm.
used to protect her, now I don't. Now she's like a free person, but it's an Anunnaki thing. You have to look in the history, but because it was looking for her. But I have never encountered, and I still to this day, if that happens to me again, I ask all my guides every day, like, please, just no.
Mm.
But yeah,
Mm.
because I still wouldn't know what to do about that. I was
Yeah.
it was physically in my presence and beating the hell out of me,
That's
like,
terrifying.
emotionally and physically. And
Yeah.
so that's the best way that I could draw it, because it was, like, three-dimensional and all the, like, I but even drawing it and putting it there, I gave it energy, so I had to, like, take it away and just,
Mhm.
like, "You're not here. This is just an image to show people, like, this is the best representation of what I can tell you
Yeah.
happened." But, yeah, I can't explain that to people. I just know that that was not a spirit, that was not a normal anything that I have ever dealt with, and I still, to this day, wouldn't know what to do about it. So,
Well, the really bad stuff only comes after the people that are
Mhm.
powerful enough that they're scared of them,
yeah.
you
But
know?
yeah,
Yeah.
like, I've seen more of them start to pop back in, like, when I meditate and I'm doing my things, because I broadcast very loudly, and then, like, X's appear all over the sky, and, like, crazy stuff starts to happen, so I'll see them pop in, but I push them out, and I'm like, No," and
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing right now. But, I mean, that one came, like, full in, like, I'm
Mhm.
crossing through the Stargate, and here the fuck I am.
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay."
Yikes.
And
So
then,
is there a connection between them? Is that the same thing as what people refer to as like the reptilians or the lizard people, or is that something different?
like, there are reptilians that are, like, more on the warring side and was part of the Orion Wars and all of that stuff, but there's reptilians that have shown up to me that have helped heal me and given me
Mhm.
Mm.
strength. So not all of the reptilian people are like that,
Yeah.
and this is just one that I encountered, and that is what I got from it, is that they control all of the negative of what is going on in the world, from the little tiniest negative thing to the nastiest thing that a human could possibly do.
Mm.
Yeah. And it knew I was a really strong empath, so it knew it could just, like, completely just slay me
Yeah.
and gut me with
Mhm.
this information. Yeah.
Jeez. Goodness gracious. Okay.
We got some thunder and lightning rolling through
Yes.
again. So if you hear it over the microphones,
Is anybody popping up saying, "Who is this crazy bitch you got on your podcast?"
No,
Oh, no.
because we're a bunch of weirdos. We always have the craziest, weirdest stuff.
and you
You might have missed it along the way there. There was a bunch of talk about the 12 strands of DNA. Lunar Poema said that she thinks there's going to be 16 strands of DNA in the future. She's painted the DNA strand. No, we got a lot of weirdos around here, Raven. You're perfectly at home.
I know all about the strand. And
our wonderful weirdos in our community go by the moniker Team Weird.
Yes.
So we will.
You just said, poor Raven just stepped into a whole chat of crazy bitches. Frosty, I'm going to let you take over for a second because our cat is outside. I'm going to go see if I can get her in real quick.
Okay. Well, we talked, since we're kind of going off of a negative spin here, we're talking about one of the most negative entities that you've encountered. What would you consider to be maybe one of the most positive things that you've encountered that you would like to share?
I really love when like Papa Lyra that I was talking about
Oh, yeah.
earlier comes to visit me, because like he was my papa there. And so I know him and I'm very familiar with him, and he gives me a lot of love and just comfort and that kind of energy. And any of the interactions, even when I call them to me and I put there's a light show going on out here in the yard because they'll come down from the skies. You can bring them down to you. I can teach you guys how. But even that, you don't want them to leave. You ask them not to leave because you feel so much love just from the ones that come down and they're flying around your yard, the orbs and things that come around. And then the ones that are up in the sky, now you're going to have to pay attention. Is it man-made or is it alien? Because if you're like tapped in and you go to the universe, well, you can feel them, and I can like hone in on them and I can feel their energy. If it's a man-made thing, which we have that technology, man has made that shit. So, but I can sense it, that there's no beings in there with the love and the energy and the whatevers that they put off. So I'm like, no. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, that would be totally different energy for sure.
Yeah, it's the old military energy. It's like,
yeah. Yay, fine stuff. One of the other things I saw on your website was that you offer services to heal empaths and psychics. Will you tell us about that?
So just like I said, I'm being repaired still right now. So like I say it to my guide and my team of people, I'm like, empath down. Like literally, I'm like, empath down. But so when you're drained, or like if you're in a narcissistic relationship, one, you have to get out of that before you're going to heal yourself. But you have to help align their chakras. You have to help them understand that they have to set boundaries, and that empaths attract negative people because they're like, oh, what is this juiciness I can like suck from? Because they're energy vampires. And then they either suck you dry emotionally, or some of them are physically violent, and like empaths attract that kind of stuff. So like when empaths are constantly asking, why am I always with these people that treat me like freaking crap? That's why, because you have to understand who you are, and like literally empaths have to become the bitch, for lack of a better word. You have to be like, fucking no.
Yeah.
Like if you feel bad for 1 second around someone, or feel like you cannot be yourself around someone, get out now.
Yeah. Boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have to I do Reiki sessions on them. If it's viral, like they could also get their records read, which helps them figure out who they are and what they are and why a lot of things are happening to them. But it's just energy work. So even if it's remote, it's the same thing. It's energy work to heal them and balance them. Just like I have to ask that my people like get some healers down here now, like
Yeah.
yeah, or my friend
Excellent.
that can help me heal me. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to mention one more time. We are winding down. We're reaching the 10 o'clock hour here on the East Coast of the United States. So we have a little bit more time left. But if you had a question for Raven, Willow, go ahead and put that in chat and we'll try to get to that before the end of the show tonight. All right, Jenny, what else do you have?
Keisha has a question. I have a young friend who's learning she's an empath. She's absorbing literally everything and breaks down if the wind blows. How can I best help her?
So that's the boundary thing. So teach her energy bubble. If you start with your hands and form your energy bubble, you radiate energy all the time. You'll start to feel it pulse between your hands. Make it bigger and bigger and bigger, and you fill it with love and light and happiness. Like if you've ever owned animals or had children, like focus on what actual true unconditional love is. Put that in there. Put all of those things in there, and you surround yourself with it. I literally do it daily, all day. Like, I mean, not 24/7 nonstop, but like periodically all day, every day, because empaths are that sensitive, and I'm a very strong empath. So I literally have to do it all day, every day, really strong blockers. Because if I even let myself feel the pain of the earth, I'll have a fucking breakdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you have
Like
to start with that
kind of like
energy
Keisha
bubble
said,
protection.
when the wind blows.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Lunar Paloma has a question. What's your most amazing animal story?
Well, I'm a raven, so I can I piss off my neighbors because I just meditate on them, or hawks, because hawks are my spirit animal. I can call any animal to me really, but I can get a whole horde of ravens going on around here. I mean, hundreds of them, and I piss my neighbors off.
That
But
sounds
I love it.
awesome. I wouldn't be pissed. I'd be so excited.
I have so much fun with them, and they remember you, and so I feed them, I throw them some popcorn or whatever we've got, and we have conversations and we hang out, and like the neighbors are like, "Why is there hundreds and thousands of blackbirds everywhere?" And yeah. But and then I have to repel some animals because like I live where there's mountain lions,
Ooh.
and they have come up to me quite frequently, so I constantly have to be like, "I love you all, but you just stay over there, please." So
Wow.
because I'm an animal whisperer by nature too, so critters just come.
Yeah.
Hummingbirds just hanging here right above my face, like, "Hey, what's up?" Yeah.
Hummingbirds can stay. Mountain
Yeah.
lions, back up.
Yeah, that's been some creepy. Woo, yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah, I'm like, "I'm leaving, dude. Your mountain. I'm going by." Yeah.
Yeah, Keisha said she's had bobcats get in her space.
Yeah.
And then Lunar was saying the ravens and crows have facial recognition.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat.
Yes, ravens see. So that's like included in my gifts. So when I read people and I see their spirit animal, it always has to do with their gifts as well. But I have like a
Nice.
totem of animals, but you know,
Yeah.
yeah, ravens they can see everything, and they're very clever and very intelligent, and yeah.
Yeah, they're really cool. Rixie has hawks. Hawks get close.
Yes. I've
love hawks.
called a kettle of hawks when I've been meditating, because I was talking to my twin flame, which is a red-tailed hawk. He's a
Ooh.
native. He's not with me here, but we interact because I tore time and space to be here. That's a whole nother story for another day. But
Well, shit, I just
So-
screw up. I just ripped up a soul contract. You're just ripping up the whole time and space.
yeah. So he's not here, but I was like meditating on hawks, and then literally something tapped me on the shoulder, like, "Wake the hell up, bitch!" Because I
Yeah.
have a little dog, and I looked up, and there's like there was at least 50, 60 hawks like
Wow.
circling in this like wind vortex. So I put the dogs inside. And then once that was over, I just watched them, and they just kept circling, and just one by one dissipated. And then there was one left, and it was a red-tailed hawk, and I mean, it was so close to me that I could see the details of it. And then it finally flew away. Like, it was looking at me. It tilted its head, and like I
Wow.
could see it all.
That's amazing.
So if you meditate hard enough on something, it comes to you.
To wrap up the last couple minutes here. Last week on the Witching Hours, we had on Mike Cleland. He's the owl guy. Have you had any owl experiences?
I love owls. I've had a
too.
lot of clients that are owls, but I love to see owls out in nature. Oh,
They're amazing.
gorgeous! And you just look at them, and they're just analyzing you. They're just like, what, are you cool? Are you not? What am I gonna do with you? Am I gonna fuck up your day? Am I gonna look pretty? What's gonna happen here? Like, owls are just like, they're just studying you.
Yeah, they're pretty fascinating.
All right. Well, we're pretty much wind up to the top of the hour here. If you have any other questions, feel free to throw them in there. But I think we're going to go ahead and start winding down. For everyone who's listening on the podcast, we're going to go ahead and end it for you. So thank you, Raven Willow, for coming in and hanging out this night. We really appreciated it.
Yeah, this was awesome.
Awesome. All right. So for everyone listening at another time and possibly in another place, thank you for joining us, and we will see you all.
Yeah.
It's broadcast to the universe.
Yes. We will see you all next time.